As an actor, if you could do something over in your career, what would it be?
Wow. If I could do something over in my career. Oh, that's a good one. No, I can't use that. It's funny. When you're an actor and you're doing a series, and you're on every week, you're in everybody's living rooms, and you're all over the place, and then there's life that happens at the same time, and people forget that. My son, I have a 12-year-old son, I'm a single father, I have full custody of my son, and I changed my career when my son came into this world. My son is the center of my life, and I wouldn't change that at all for anything. The thing that happens though when you're doing that is when you're shooting a show like Lois and Clark, I would leave my house, I would be home 18 hours later, every day. And I'd start the week getting up at 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning, and I'd end the week on Saturday. I started on Monday morning that way, and I'd end the week on Saturday morning at like 9 o'clock in the morning, getting home. So you switch, your clock switches all week, and I get 6 hours a night at home, and it was brutal. It's absolutely brutal. Tom Welling doing 10 years of Smallville, that guy shouldn't have to work till next century. I mean, because you get exhausted. And I had some opportunities to take some really lucrative television series not long after, but I didn't want to be without my son. So I wouldn't take those jobs, I wouldn't change that as an actor. It's just funny that people, I'll run to people now, they're like, so are you still acting? And I'm like, well, yeah, I've got like 6 movies right now and 2 television shows, but if you don't see it all the time, they're like, oh, you're still working, okay, yeah, it's a weird thing. I don't feel that need to get out there and go, I have to be in front of everybody all the time on television and working and have that sort of public eye on me all the time. A lot of people do. Maybe the only thing I would change is I did a film called Out of Time with Denzel Washington. It was great, and I loved doing it. That's the big time. And when you're doing those films, unfortunately what happens is Denzel Washington makes $20 million, and then everybody else who's an actor works for peanuts in order to be on stage or on film, on camera with the greatest actor. And you do it for the privilege of being up there with them. And it can further your career quite a bit, but you can't live on that amount of money. They don't pay you. You do it for the privilege, and it's a stepping stone. And that's why you see so many actors in television. And you think about it now, you're like, oh wow, there's an Academy Award winner so-and-so starring in a series. Well, it's because that's how you make a living. So I wouldn't change anything. I might have just gone for a couple more of those films. But it's hard when you're balancing being a father and an actor. So that balance has been the toughest thing. She's just having a heck of a time, huh? She's got a Superman shirt on, so it's okay by me. Well, Dad's also a master karate guy, so I'm not going to give him too much of a hard time. I know my limits.
From your role from Lois and Clark to Smallville, did you have to adjust with being similar, or did you have to adapt?
Well, when I did Smallville, first of all, Christopher Reeve, when he did Smallville, kind of made it imperative that anybody else who was involved in the Superman mythos at all should go on the show. And so when the chairman of the board goes out there, we're all going to be on the show. Such great respect for him. And to go over and do Smallville was fun for me because I got to be the guy without superpowers, if you will. And I got to watch Tom Welling be Superman. So there was this one point in time where we face off, if you will. And well, this particular case was at the end of the show, the episode, and he had to come in super speed through a whole bunch of stuff and then end up at one place. And it was really strange to not be the guy having to do the super speeding through, but being the person who had to move slowly. But the one thing Tom did that I didn't do is when Tom was rehearsing, he made sound effects. Tom, those don't really help, but okay. He was a really good sport. It was a lot of fun. Those guys had it down to a science. It was a lot of fun to play the role. But it's really interesting to be suddenly the bad guy coming on and having to fight the good guys. For me, it was great fun.
Okay, another Lois and Clark question, sorry. You and
I
Terry.
don't mind the lower. I'll answer that.
Yeah,
Lois and Clark was my favorite show.
Clark, too. You and Terry Hatcher seem to have really good on-screen chemistry, which I think helped to make the show so great. Like, was it like that way off screen too? Like you guys were good, like it was always a good working environment and you had lots of fun to I guess go that long and have such a long-running series, or?
No, we hate each other. No, I'm kidding. When you do a series with somebody, first of all, when you're casting a series, it's so difficult to know whether or not two people will have chemistry on screen. You'll see real-life couples on screen together, and they fizzle. You're like, what? But they're married. You know, whether it's Nicole Kidman and Tom Cruise and Far and Away, or whatever it happens to be, like you think they would have some sort of great chemistry. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Robert Butler was with Deborah Joy Levine created the show. Robert Butler shot the pilot. He's the pilot maker. He was able to get chemistry people together. He looks at it and he always finds the chemistry. He has a certain knack for seeing that. And excuse me. And he is the one that ultimately made the choices. And he knows how it works. He could see it with his eye, and he who should be Perry White, who should be Lois, who should be Clark. And he was able to put that together. Terry and I had great chemistry. We had a wonderful time shooting the show. We were great friends. When you're working together with somebody 18 hours a day, all day, 9.5 months a year, 4 years in a row, you feel like that. And that's the thing, it's a tremendous amount of time. We spend much more time together than anybody I know who's married. And you know, you're under great strain, there's a lot of pressure, and you stream a lot. But so we were very close, and we had a very good relationship. And you know, it's almost, I spent more time shooting Lois and Clark than I did being in college. When you think about that, it's shocking, and that's how I felt. And yeah, we got along very well. I mean, there were times when there was some tension, of course, always. I mean, there's times of tension in any marriage, if you will, and we were on camera, and we were basically married there. So sometimes like that sort of took place, but for the most part, it was pretty fantastic.
Kind of a weird question, but on Criminal Minds, you played a very disturbing character. How did you get into character?
I don't know if anybody saw the Criminal Minds thing. I played a guy who was a gambler, back to your question, who figured out that if he killed somebody close to him, he'd have good luck. Needless to say, it wasn't great for his family. To play a character like that, we had a great director who did that, a guy named Doug Arniakoski. He's a very visual guy. When you come on a different show, it's very challenging to come on someone else's show and go to work, because there's a certain, you know, it's their show. You're the new guy coming in or a new person coming in. But on Criminal Minds, it's the unsub that does most of the work for each episode. And so it was kind of my show in that sense. And to prepare, any actor will borrow from people that they know. You know, if you know there are certain people that actors like to watch people. They'll sit in a coffee shop and watch different people. They'll see someone who they think is off, or somebody who they think is aggressive, or someone who's passive, and you start watching their behavior and you incorporate that a lot of times into the roles you play. I knew some guys who had some gambling problems, not me, guys who had gambling problems, and I would watch them and see them and certain things. And then I'm also a huge fan of watching those, you know, Discovery ID things, those real true life crime things. I get hooked in. I mean, I just suck right in, boom. And you see them. I played, you know, Scott Peterson. I watched all of his tapes, all of his interviews that he gave, and you just study what they're like. So I kind of, after a while, to get to a certain age, and I'm of a certain age now, you've got enough life experience and things, and you study other people like that, and that's kind of what I drew upon. That was a lot of fun. It was the only job I ever had where my director would say to me at night, because we were shooting at a real casino, at night we finished shooting and go out, stay out all night and have a bunch of drinks, because I want you to look like hell tomorrow. I'm like, oh, no. I didn't heed his advice, maybe once or twice, I don't know. But it was funny, you know. We would use a lot of makeup and menthol. They blow menthol stick into your eye, which makes your eyes very watery. But that was a very challenging role, and one that I'm particularly proud of. It was a lot of fun. Thank you. I don't have a gambling problem.
I was wondering how you felt about being an entire generation's first exposure as being Superman. So their first exposure being such an iconic character, and how you felt about be that role model?
That's a great question. The reality is, at that time, for me, Superman was Christopher Reeve. That's how I pictured it. And the character was different enough. When I read the script for the first time, I thought, this is different. And it spoke to me. I was very comfortable with the character of Clark. And I didn't think of it in terms of where it would sit in history. You kind of do, but you don't have any idea. It's like if you tell this little one here, that the fire's hot, she'll say, okay, the fire's hot. Well, until she sticks her hand in the fire, she doesn't know what hot means. I'm not telling you to stick her hand in the fire. But, you don't understand it. So I had no way of understanding that I was going to play this character, and it would be, you didn't know if it was going to be successful. You didn't know if people were going to watch the show, or if they'd find you likable. I had no idea. So there was a lot of nerves involved in that. And then you just get caught up in shooting the show. And what happens now, again, this is the first year I've ever done the Comic Cons. I've actually gone out and spoken to so many fans and people who grew up watching the show. And what I hear very often, that's the thing I'm so proud of the show, is people will say, I grew up watching the show with my family. My mom and dad and I would sit and watch the show every Sunday, and it was a big family event. And that warms my heart, because here I am now, many years later, and the father of a little boy, and I wish there was a show that we would embrace like Lois and Clark. I wish there was a new kid out there, and I could say, well, that's the next generation's, Superman. At the same time, what's really interesting is with fame or celebrity or anything like that, is not long thereafter I started doing Ripley's Believe It or Not. And we were based out of, it was TNT, or TBS, and that was based out of Atlanta. And I had been hearing the Superman stuff for so long. The Ripley's Believe It or Not just started airing, and I was in Atlanta getting my bags at the airport, and this little kid comes up to me and goes, excuse me, aren't you that guy on, and I was waiting for the Lois and Clark or Superman, and he was like, on Ripley's Believe It or Not? And I was like, bang, there it is. And here's the next generation, and that's the way it goes. And I don't fault that at all. I'm great with that. I think it's fantastic. I sort of don't feel like I've been pegged just as Superman, because I've played, I've been in 100 movies and things like that, and plenty of work. I don't lack for work. That's the point. But I don't mind being known as a generations of Superman. That's fantastic. I love it. I embrace it, and it doesn't feel like pressure, because I don't have a gambling problem.
Could you tell us a little bit about your appearance on Burn Notice and what it was like in the Miami Heat?
Yeah, Miami.